What's happening at the moment isn't a massive repricing of houses versus incomes, that sort of thing. What's happening mainly at the moment is the Reserve Bank pulling back from excessively easy monetary conditions, a giving back of maybe half the gains seen of hugely unusual nature during the pandemic. Well, hello again, everybody. Last week, I ran through a list of some reasons why, if you're a buyer and you're a bit uncertain about what's happening out there, maybe you could feel justified in sitting on your hands, doing nothing, waiting to see how things would pan out. Now, of course, many people would seize on that gleefully, while others would be thinking, well, hang on, if everybody sits back from the market, then maybe prices fall away pretty precipitously, which will be the hope of people sitting back from the market. Now, the thing is, of course, markets never have just one set of factors in operation. There are always supporting factors at the same time as we have negative factors. And so last week I said for this week's video, I would have a look at some reasons why, if you are a buyer and you're taking things fairly easy in the residential property market at the moment, just be careful not to get overly optimistic about maybe how much prices will fall, the length of time during which they will go down as well, and maybe even the extent to which our vendors will negotiate on conditions. Certainly, most things are in your favour at the moment as a buyer when it comes to the negotiations, but in my Tony's View weekly publication for June 16, I'm going to be running through a whole list of reasons why maybe you want to remain engaged with the market. And so far I'm up to 20. We'll see what I actually put in there and how it pans out. Now, I'm just going to summarise a few of them here. One of them is that construction costs are rising. It's quite difficult for house prices to fall all that far when you've got construction costs rising by 21% over the past year and continuing to go up, as we can see with supply chain disruptions, etc. Around the world. Also going up, of course, are rents. The measures vary. Some show 6%, others up to 10%, but basically they are going up. And that also provides an incentive for investors, A, not to sell property, maybe even B, to look at acquiring some more. And speaking of incentives for investors, the National Party have explicitly stated that when they get re-elected, be that 2023, 2026 or whatever, they will reinstate the 2-year Bright Line test, and they will reinstate the ability of investors to deduct interest expenses when calculating taxable income. So as each month goes by, there's actually a little bit of an increase in the incentive for investors to hold on and wait for that change in government, whether it's a year and a half time or 4.5 year time. Other things relevant: Airbnb, with the return of international visitors, we're going to get some of the housing stock going back into short-term rentals. So again, it provides some upward pressure on the rents out there. It pays to remember the long-term trend in prices is upward. Now, since 1992, on average, New Zealand house prices have risen 7% per annum. I think we're probably looking at 5% per annum going forward, but basically still going up. Better supply, interest rates not quite so low, a few of those factors in play. What's happening at the moment isn't a massive repricing of houses versus incomes, that sort of thing. What's happening mainly at the moment is the Reserve Bank pulling back from excessively easy monetary conditions, a giving back of maybe half the gains seen of hugely unusual nature during the pandemic. That process is going to come to an end, and it pays to remember the housing market moves in cycles. So there's a low point somewhere down the track. Not for a while yet. The vendors have yet to capitulate. They're yet to go, well, I'm not going to get the price I thought I could back in November, so time to meet the market. That factor will come along, but I think we're still maybe 6 months or so away from that happening. Job security is high. And that means a lot of people are actually going to remain actively engaged in the housing market, looking around for something to purchase. And the final factor I'll note here, although there will be more, like I say, in my weekly publication, I think we've passed peak credit crunch. We, from July 7, have some alterations to the CCCFA regulations there. And I think the next change for LVR's loan-to-value ratio rules will be an easing, not immediate, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Reserve Bank maybe tweaked those things a little bit before the end of the year. Again, there's nothing immediate at all coming along and saying this decline in house prices is over, but if I were a buyer, I still would remain engaged in the market, noting that the number of listings to choose from is up 80% nationwide from a year ago. So all the best out there.